7 a.m., December 7th, 1941. The people of Honolulu, Hawaii lie asleep, having no idea the carnage that would soon sweep through a Pearl Harbor base within the hour. Little did they know, a Japanese fleet of 6 aircraft carriers, 2 battleships, 3 cruisers, and 11 destroyers, led by Vice Admiral Nagumo Chuichi, were beginning an assault from 275 miles north of the island. At 7:55, the first dive bomber arrived over Honolulu, the first in a wave of 365 planes that bombarded Pearl Harbor that day. Within 30 minutes, Pearl Harbor was in ruin. The Arizona, Oklahoma, California, West Virginia, and Nevada had sunk with at least 10 more ships. More than 180 U.S. aircraft were destroyed, and 2,300 American soldiers lost their lives. That same day, Franklin Delano Roosevelt delivered this iconic message, formally bringing the United States into World War II.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
As a result of the attack, Japanese Americans were immediately brought into question. Americans across the country began to question if the Japanese fleet would soon be on the Pacific coast, ready for a full-scale invasion of the United States. But more importantly, where does the loyalty of Japanese Americans stand? Public outcry was for the detention of Japanese Americans, stating that they were spies working for the Empire of Japan from the heart of the American homeland. Eventually, in February of 1942, Roosevelt issued Executive Order 9066, ordering all Japanese Americans along the West Coast to be stationed in internment camps. FDR stated that wartime success depended on protecting the United States from sabotage and espionage, and so it was. Roosevelt gave full control of the situation to the U.S. military, and Japanese Americans throughout the West were rounded up into internment camps. The United States military made no effort to discern the loyal from disloyal citizens. Someone was bound to stand up for what they believed. Toyoshiburo Korematsu was that man. Toyoshiburo was an American of Japanese descent who was born near San Francisco, California. Korematsu did not believe it was right for the United States to send an entire race into internment camps, and he acted accordingly. Instead of abiding by military orders, that is, to be put in an internment camp, Korematsu attempted to flee. Despite his valiant efforts, he had minor facial surgery, he changed his name, and pretended to be a Mexican American. He was caught and charged with disobeying a military order, an Executive Order 9066. Unsurprisingly, Korematsu pled not guilty and was determined to fight against a case that he believed was against the U.S. Constitution, all the way to the Supreme Court. His argument was that Executive Order 9066 violated civil liberties and that the American government had no right to confine an entire race when they had done nothing wrong. He, Korematsu, believed that what was done to him violated the Fifth Amendment and habeas corpus. Under the Fifth Amendment, a person should be allowed relief from unlawful detention. Korematsu also argued that this confinement was not based out of military necessity, but rather racial discrimination. Justice Frank Murphy wrote in his dissenting opinion that we are, quote, legalizing racism. The final verdict did not agree with Frank Murphy's statement, however. With the 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the United States. In the court opinion written by Justice Hugo Lafayette Black, the ruling was that the president and military may do anything that is reasonable to conduct a war. Black also stated that, because of the rapid shift to war emergency as a result of Pearl Harbor, government didn't have time to separate loyal from disloyal Japanese Americans. Because they couldn't do so, it was reasonable to remove all citizens in question from the West Coast. Therefore, when Korematsu had refused to leave the West Coast as part of a military order, he had violated federal law, and his conviction was constitutional. The court left out one major detail in their publicized opinion, however. The Supreme Court refused to decide whether it was legal to confine the Japanese Americans in internment camps. Korematsu versus the United States was important for several reasons, but there are two that stick out above the rest. This court case ruled that the United States could exclude and forcibly remove an entire race from a region of the country based solely, some would say, on their race. The court ruled that the country's protection from espionage and wartime acts were more important than the individual and civil rights of Toyo Shiburo Korematsu. Korematsu's conviction was overturned in 1983, but the rulings concerning the exclusion orders have never been overridden.